staff. Hopefully you guys are starting to serve the entrees. But if I could ask the staff, I know you guys are working very hard, but if you could be as quiet as possible, our virtual audience would appreciate that. Are we streaming yet? Okay, I want to welcome back my virtual attendees, and I want my virtual attendees to know that we very much want you to be part of this chat, this discussion. So if you have any questions, put your questions in the chat box, and my back-end team will make sure that your questions are answered. And there's plenty of seats, sir, in the back. Just there's seats all over the place, and we don't want a meal to go wasted. So I see a seat up here. There's several. Just make your way up. Or I can come back when I get done and help you find a place. So anyone walking in late, there's several seats. You just kind of have to walk around and find one. Today I have Sujeet Bambawale. He is the Chief Information Security Officer from 7-Eleven, who so kindly flew in from San Francisco to be with us today. He is he's the Chief Security Officer of an iconic global brand that has deep cherished, always on connection into communities everywhere. Information security at 7-Eleven focuses on maintaining and enhancing an industry-leading, comprehensive, and cohesive security fabric around our business value drivers and customer-obsessed manner. The 7-Eleven Information Security Organization brings together various technical domains within information security, the force of multipliers of governance, risk, compliance, and data protection to facilitate unified accountability. He came to 7-Eleven from Symantec's Consumer Business Division, where he had the honor of driving a global security engineering portfolio. Prior to Symantec, he was at LifeLock, via the acquisition, and 5 years with NetApp and 10 years with Intuit. So very proud. I'm very lucky at FutureCon to have so many great keynote speakers that come and spend an hour with us sharing their insight on what's happening in the industry. Today, Sujeet's going to speak on the use of AI in information security. So let's welcome Sujeet.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Sujeet Bambawale. I'm glad to be here. This is a very esteemed crowd to be in, and this is one of the best information security conferences I've had the opportunity to be with. I'm getting the "I can't hear you" from them. I rarely get to hear "I can't hear you," so thank you. Okay, well, let me do that again. My name is Sujeet Bambawale. Vice President and Chief Information Security Officer at 7-Eleven. And for all those of you who rode your bikes to a 7-Eleven growing up to have a Slurpee, thank you for your business. Please keep doing that. We love you. Information security at today is very interesting, and I speak about AI frequently. Most commonly, the question I get asked at the very start. So I just preempted AI, right? So I'm going to preempt the question that you all have. Where's your presentation? Here's the problem. Nowadays with ChatGPT, they don't know if I made it or ChatGPT made it. So what's the point, right? In any case, so AI is an interesting topic in information security because in the same way that the good folks, y'all here, your businesses, your business domains, your revenue streams, your internal enterprise architects, your engineers, in the same way that you use them, you use the various AI models, AI libraries, and everything that you can get in a commodity way from the hyperscalers, from the cloud providers in terms of their AI offerings, the exact same capabilities and offerings are available to your threat actors. Now, AI at the very base started with automation. And for those in the audience who have spent some time learning and researching and working with AI, unsupervised AI is supposed to be the easier part of AI. That's not true. I was just checking. Supervised AI is the easier part. Unsupervised AI is the harder part. Now, no relation to 7-Eleven, but there are 7 different types of AI. We didn't make it. The most common unsupervised is called narrow AI. Now think about narrow AI, just as the name suggests. It does one task based on the data that you give it. You're supervising its outcomes, and the intent is to do the same thing iteratively over and over again with a better degree of efficacy and quality so that you can get to a better sustainable outcome. The typical intention is move the expensive human capital to more higher value tasks and get better coverage, better scale. It's called narrow AI. Now change shoes, go to a threat actor. A threat actor can use narrow AI for similar purposes. You've got a threat surface, you've got an application. That application may have credentials that can be guessed. That application may have credentials that could have been exposed or approximated by other data breaches with that data collected on Pastebin, Ghostbin, etc. So your red teams, your penetration testing teams, what they do, the wonderful humans that you all have working for you, or you're part of those teams yourself, what you do is you say, well, let me run a scan. Let me see what this target has going on. Sometimes the target is given to you. Sometimes you learn the target through surveillance. And then you say, what can I hit this target with? Can I presume credentials? Can I assume credentials? Can I just go for admin? Or can I harvest credentials from some other unsuspecting targets in that organization? Now apply some level of just contextual thinking on this and say, well, are these steps that difficult for a machine to do? Can you script a machine to go out to Ghostbin, go out to Pastebin, go out to any other credential collecting site and say, give me all of the last 17 data breach information or credentials that were spilled? It's not. The data repositories themselves are no longer the problem. They can be easily scaled up to collect as much information that you want. From narrow AI, we go to something called general intelligence. And then comes strong AI. These are the kind of the 3 real aspects of supervised AI in which you have to give them the data to get the outcomes that you want. So you know your outcome. Your outcome is, in Unix terms, maybe a $1 prompt. In other cases, you just want to get past the login screen without an error message. So you know your outcomes. In order to get to that outcome, now it's a timing issue. And the ROI is on the amount of time you're spending to get to a known outcome. This is a great use case for the proper use of artificial intelligence by threat actors. So coming back to this, this is the goals that you would have as a business, the goals that you would have as the good part of information security are literally reversed, but available with the same horsepower, with the same pervasive availability, and for the same cost to the threat actors. And hyperscalers are not really making a difference in saying, well, you don't seem to be a good person. We won't make our AI models available to you. Everyone's ingesting the same thing to get to their own outcomes. This is what I would typically call offensive AI. Now, offensive AI would mean the AI used by threat actors to attack all of your attack surfaces. Enumerating all of those attack surfaces in itself is quite a task. And for us to know all of the applications, all of the URLs, all of the subdomains, everything that's been launched by our company sometimes can be a difficult task. But at machine scale and at machine speed, with a intelligent swarm of AI bots looking through the entire environment for what's publicly available, what's publicly accessible, this is a trivial task to do, even from the public internet. This is a solved problem. Once we get past the threat surfaces being enumerated, the credentials being grabbed, and them being applied, one would think, well, nowadays APIs have rate limiting. You can't really stuff a lot of credentials in a very small amount of time into an application that you get shut down. That's true. So how would your red team beat that? How would your penetration testing team beat that? How would your developers beat that? They'd spin up proxy servers, they'd go to different subnets, they'll go to a VPN application and try to get a different IP so that rate limiting doesn't work. If you can think about this, this is data that can be fed to an AI engine to do it for you. So now you have to wonder, is there any ROI for a threat actor to do anything brute force anymore? And if it's not brute force, then is there any attack that we are seeing that is not an offensive AI attack? So why would someone want to stuff 100 passwords into a password entry field anymore? Because they know they're going to get locked out after attempt number 75, or ideally attempt number 5. So the better thing to do is to inject 3, move on, come back to the same thing 15 minutes later, inject 2, move on, come back. So it's low and slow, as we used to call it previously, but on steroids, if you will. Offensive AI is very real, and it's very here to stay, because it gives threat actors the right ROI. Now, on the good side, I haven't seen very many folks talk about AI and using AI within their information security teams. And I think that's something worth discussing in detail. Who here does security metrics? I see a few hands going up. Security metrics, one size doesn't fit all in many cases. But what I see in most security metrics and security metrics dashboards is that they have first order and second order metrics, which means they're collecting data about something, and then they're collecting data about the data. Typically, that means trends, that means aggregation, that means analysis of some kind. However, the request from the organization in many cases is, what do I make out of that trend? What is my takeaway? What is the insight? And aggregating insights over time tends to become what we call in InfoSec as actionable intelligence. This is another excellent use of AI by information security teams, in which you are monitoring maybe even things like license counts for the platforms that you have purchased. Like, how well are we using this? Are we using this well enough? And more importantly, how are we measuring efficacy? Using AI to measure, monitor, optimize, and adapt efficacy is a very good use of AI within information security teams. Because we tend to buy tools, we tend to do a very good job of applying those tools to the threat vectors that we know. Now we can use AI to say, are we meeting the scale of the evolving problem? Because threat actors typically don't do the same thing multiple times. It's not a good use of their time. So mining your internal data to see what trends you can gather from usage, trends you can gather about efficiency, trends you can gather about efficacy, can lead to creating a very strong narrative about the use of your information security budget and the use of your information security skill set to meet the information security needs of your organization. I'm going to pause here because I know y'all are eating and whatnot. I saw a few heads go up. Any questions so far? Okay, I'm going to keep going. Wonderful. If anyone has a question, please raise your hand. Okay, going on. Now, self-aware AI is really the 7th and the last level of artificial intelligence. It is what exactly the name suggests, self-aware, very sentient, able to not just absorb data that it wants, but also to find all the places that the data that it wants exists, reach those places, get it in the right format, do what it wants with it, and get to the outcomes that it believes are the right outcomes. This gets into a very interesting place, especially for information security. But it's the equivalent of autocorrect on all our phones. We all love to say, damn autocorrect. But I challenge you all, turn off autocorrect for 5 days, and you'll hate it. You'll just hate your phones. Because now we're so used to just, going with it, we can't even spell correctly. I've tried this. I was just, I said, I'm going to stop hating on autocorrect. I turned it off. I was like, have I lost hand-eye coordination? Like, I can't type anymore. It's not that. We've just gotten used to it. So we expect that autocorrect from most of the things that we deal with. Obviously, Tesla in Los Angeles, a big presence, autonomous driving. We just kind of assume that the car is going to drive itself. We think adaptive cruise control is just kind of obvious. Why would you want to supervise the car? It'll take care of itself. So we have kind of started growing accustomed to the presence of someone having our back, so to speak, in day-to-day. And I think that is the exact same tone that information security should have with the organizations it supports, that we have their backs. Now, the threat landscape out there is changing very fast. And what that means is all of the linear threat vectors, like, okay, an attacker is going to come in this way, is going to go through this username and password field, or is going to go through this firewall, and is going to go through this API and do this. These threat cases, these abuse cases, we have to look at them all in the context of, is this really what the threat actor is going to do? How are they going to pivot? Where are they going to go? And there's almost nothing better than an AI engine to do this, because they will effectively abandon all assumption and pivot almost infinitely from every node you can think of. So using AI within your team to manage usage, to manage telemetry, to manage and measure efficacy is a great internal use of AI. And keeping an eye on offensive AI so that you're not saying, well, this is just a brute force attack. This is just a low and slow attack. This is just a X. This is just a credential stuffing. Yes, they are all that. But that doesn't mean that they are not designed to look like that. Because, again, the threat actor ROI is no longer where it used to be. If they have to attack all of these targets at scale, and, well, you know this now, ransomware gangs today have affiliate programs. So it's almost like any other marketing endeavor in which there is a core, and they have all of these contextual affiliates, in which those affiliates are trying to get into victims and then kind of reporting back to the home, to the mothership, so to speak. And there we have those nice help desks and the nice negotiating and so on and so forth. But now this is a business. And you all know this. It has been a business on the threat actor side for a very long time. So think about the threat actor business and their use of AI in the exact same tone and the exact same urgency as your businesses use AI for your good outcomes today. If you are identifying new customer bases using AI, they are identifying new targets using AI. If you are identifying new price points using AI, they are identifying new price points using AI. So it's very important to think about better and better Turing tests, like to say, are you a robot? How are you sure you are not a robot is a better test, because now we can't tell. And then, of course, if you're okay with your customers being robots, that's one thing. Some businesses may accept that, but for most of us, that's a wide gray area. For some businesses, creating accounts at scale is not a problem. For others, they're reporting those accounts to the street, they're reporting those accounts to their investors, so it is a big deal. So account creation, credential stuffing, API attacks, all of these things, all of these are now AI powered. Has anyone here kind of faced like what they thought was a intelligent brute force attack? They tend to be very interesting. Based on conversations we've had in the threat intelligence community, they set off like a few trips, they set off a few alarms, then they set off a few more alarms. And it's not always obvious how those things are related. And then suddenly a hypothesis starts forming to say, well, there is a degree of commonality between all of these things. And then we get to, oh, well, okay, we are being targeted, we are being attacked. And I think that's really the last thought I want to leave everyone with, that being targeted is the thing that kind of keeps me up at night the most. I get asked that question a lot. The 3 C's of the threat actor universe. I think all of the folks here are aware, but I'll say them anyway. They're compensation, conviction, and competition. So compensation is all of the threat actors who do it for the money. Competition is all of the threat actors who do it for your intellectual property. Either they want it or they want to dilute yours. And the competition space becomes interesting because that leads to all of rogue insiders and so on and so forth. But conviction, that's really hard to buy down. So if someone's just ideologically opposed to what you're doing, what your product is doing, how you're doing something, it's very hard to say, oh, let's put up some defense against them, because they can't be bought down. And they're not after doing what you're doing, they want you just to stop you. So it's very hard. So identify who your opponents are, kind of know thy enemy, so to speak, and understand what your threat surfaces are, because the current metric is most systems on the internet, once they go live, they get attacked after 23 seconds. I think that's the current metric out there. Now, think about that in AI terms. If it's getting attacked within 23 seconds, it was researched before that, and then it was touched or attempted to be compromised. Not a trivial thing in today's space. Most people think about AI only on the good side. For this information security audience, I would strongly urge you all to look at, if the threat actors had everything we have access to from the same places, from the same sources, and perhaps with the same level of expertise and talent on their side, what could they do? And be very aware of everything that you're making available to the market in terms of visibility of your threat surfaces, of your applications. Try to look for the credentials you yourself could be exposing. And of course, don't let admin be a password that's still available to the internet. Well, folks, yes, sir. Sure. The question is, what are the 3 C's? It is competition, conviction, and compensation. I kind of see, if you just to build on that a little bit so you have context, whatever you do to cover your organization in security controls, you always have to see a halo of your partner universe around it. Because if you have a strong set of controls around your organization, if you're wrapping your organization with a strong multi-layered defense, you are surrounded by this halo of your partner ecosystem. And again, think of it as just making machines out of your penetration testing team or your red team. If they can't get to you by breaking your door down, they're going to find a way through people who have access to your house and piggyback on them. So they'll compromise them instead. So it's not really AI that we're talking about anymore. It's about securing a partner universe. But it's almost as if you have to keep an eye out on your entire partner universe so that you're aware of what's going on there, and you're able to trace if any incident, event, or failure in their security posture can be translated or used to get into your environment and ecosystem. I have outlasted lunch. Thank you. Any questions, y'all? Oh, yes, sir.
From nation-state actors or from private hacking organizations?
For my organization? Yes. That's a very speculative question. I think it's very hard to say. I think, so to repeat your question, is it more from nation-states or from private? There's nothing that indicates nation-state attackers are not motivated by money. I think a news article just went live earlier this morning that said a certain nation-state country has attackers that have mined so far $100 million in cryptocurrency so far, or have stolen $100 million in crypto so far. So yes, I mean, they technically have the label of a nation-state hostile country or IP hostile country, but they're really going after compensation. So they're really after the money. So, I mean, I understand the difference, and my mind wants to say it's ideological, but I actually kind of start to say, is it just money? Of course. Anyone? Oh, wow, okay.
So would you say that probably the most important part, I guess, of using machine learning for cybersecurity would be threat modeling, like knowing who the adversary is?
I would love to see threat modeling be done at machine learning scale. So some years ago, maybe many years ago, Netflix, I recall, released something called the Simian Army. They had the Chaos Monkey at Netflix. I think you all can Google this. And the purpose of the Chaos Monkey was to just turn stuff off randomly. And the point of this exercise was to see if Netflix's system were fault resilient. It made no assertions about using AI or machine learning for it. It was just a bot that just did that one thing. To answer your question, if there was a machine learning approach that said, I am learning the context of your environment, your network, your customer, your business after an X amount of soak time, and building you excellent threat models that pivot from one node to another in like what if, and then identifying the top X what ifs for your team to go after, that would be an excellent approach to do it. I haven't seen that so far, though. Good catch, yeah. Any other questions? Yes, sir.
Do you see quantum computing affecting this type of behavior or empowering it in the near future?
When those two things, the question is, do I think if quantum computing and AI, yes, would come together or kind of accelerate each other in terms of being a threat? Yes, I do. I think the real philosophical question, that the response that I would have is, the promise of quantum meeting AI is so good on the good side, and the results it can offer us in the same fields, identifying new customer bases, accelerating time to market, making better quality of everything, shortening communication spans, and so on and so forth, I can't see a future in which threat actors won't use it. And I think with the incentives the way they are, with the way that the threat actor world is incentivizing people to come on board and the money that they're making, I mean, nowadays ransoms have gone to significant levels. I mean, they are a well-funded ecosystem. So I certainly think that they have what it takes to attract the talent. And I think that they are setting themselves up for, in a weird way, success by really having, global scale, global reach. So I do think that they will use quantum computing and AI for their outcomes in the future. Yep. Yes, sir.
So 5G technology kind of led to the growth of cloud computing, right? 6G technology is set to lead to growth of AI and machine learning. Where do you see that going? Like, I guess, where do you see the cybersecurity industry going with that?
That's a very good question about the growth in connectivity, and that growth in connectivity being empowered by AI. My worry is, the last two levels in the 7 layers of the 7 kinds of AI. There's something that's honestly called theory of mind, and then the last one is called self-aware. I suppose as a philosophical pontification, my worry is when we have enough data in the system that can assert to intent. Currently, the information security space is all about action. Like, we are reacting to action. We are reacting to known data. We are reacting to known digital footprints, and then we are putting together multiple data points about, well, this was done, this happened, this was done, this happened, and we are putting together intent to say, well, this is clearly a bad actor because they're either trying this or they have done this, and this is orthogonal to what we consider to be a good outcome, and thus they are a bad actor. So we are asserting bad intent or poor intent by putting together these data points. To answer your question, with growth in connectivity and reduction in speed of connectivity through quantum and AI coming together along with 7G and whatnot, it's interesting to think about, will they be able to reasonably guess intent? And if they're able to guess intent, will we enforce before it happens? I'm not a AI philosopher, but that's interesting. I mean, in an ideal world, it would be great to shut down crime before it happens, but of course. Yes, sir.
So, for organizations that didn't adequately prepare, is there much alternative to meeting ransomware demands?
Ooh, wow. I'm going to duck that one. Yeah, I'm sorry. There's no good answer for that. I think every organization is told what to do and what not to do, even by the authorities. And then, what they end up doing is largely their own decision. Because readiness and preparedness, we know in information security, can't be really measured on a scale. I mean, you can measure it in a tabletop exercise, but when the machine learning models for abuse cases happen, I think those will really test our tabletop exercises much better. So today, one may think, sure, I'm prepared for X. I've got my PR team, I've got my my insurance folks, I've got X, I've got Y, I've got Z, but we're still looking at it somewhat linearly. And I think it'll be interesting when we have machine learning models like this gentleman suggested that make us abandon all assumption and think of ways in which it could happen, which leads us to this whole bouquet of cases that we probably didn't think about. For example, what if there is an X level of demand with a very short timer? Like, what if it's a 4-hour timer, not a 96-hour timer? What do we do? Right? And when that timer expires, do we really have a guarantee that they won't make it public anyway? Right? Because once we see a timer and a money demand, we assume compensation. But what if it is conviction behind compensation? So I'm going to duck that one. Good question, though. Yes, sir.
Gentleman who just asked that question,
Don't.
and also including the three C's. Just briefly, with AI being used to create vulnerabilities from different actors, we also have Azure has just recently stated that ChatGPT will be included on their platform. We also have Cisco with they've had this going on for quite a few years now, but the App Dynamics, which has the ability to auto heal or kind of automatically secure the networks.
Mhm.
Perhaps will there be a time where, with enough conviction, will different AIs compete against each other
Of course.
for the compensation?
Of course. It will happen, yeah.
But I'm saying, in the sense of security as well, will they actually maybe exploit each other?
It will come to that. I mean, just as the gentleman here stated, right? I mean, if we get to 5G and 6G and AI being a part of 6G connectivity, and if we do get to predictive, I mean, predictive is a known label in AI. I mean, we didn't make it up. Right? It is, unsupervised AI is it's intended to be predictive. It is intended to tell you what could happen, and to reduce the fudge factor on that to say, well, this is absolutely going to happen. So that the intent is to kind of funnel it down to, yes, act on this because this is going to happen. So it is a measure of intent. And will it be AI on AI? Absolutely. Absolutely. I think the interesting part for the information security tradecraft in general is to say, where do we insert what kind of checks? And what is the dye pack that we put in the water to say, well, this is where the leak is from? I don't think I really answered that question very well, though, but good question. Okay. Going once. All right, folks. Well, thank you very much. Thanks for your attention. Thanks for your time. Thank you.